Greetings, everyone. Well, this week on the first, I guess, proper Halloween movie review segment, I'm going to do things a little different than I usually do my movie reviews. Usually, I'll just focus on one movie and talk about that for 15, 20, 45 minutes. This time, I'm actually going to talk about a variety of movies that I kind of like to group together and tell you a little bit about them, why I think they're notable, and why I think if you're looking for horror that's a little bit different and maybe not quite what you're used to, you might like to check them out. And that's what we're going to talk about today on the Multimedia Chronicles. Welcome back. Okay, well, the first two we're going to talk about today are two that share something kind of sad in common. Namely that both of them have had absolutely god-awful modern remakes. Prime examples of when you should leave the originals alone and do something original instead of remaking it. God, I gotta just say, I am so sick of remakes of classic horror films. There just seem to be, it seems to be almost non-stop remakes now. Like, is there not a single original idea left? Most of the really good horror these days comes from outside of Hollywood, either independent films or foreign films, because that seems to be where all the creative people have gone, because they sure as hell aren't in Hollywood. Well, back in the old days, in the heydays of Hollywood, the 30s right through till, I'd say right through till the 80s actually, there was a lot of original, interesting stuff coming out of Hollywood. And two of them were The Haunting. This is the original 1961 version. This is not the god-awful remake with Catherine Zeta-Jones, Liam Neeson, and Owen Wilson. This is the one to see. Now, even if you saw the remake and hated it, see this one. It's a very different movie, and I'll talk about why in a minute. The other one would be House of Wax. This is not the one with Paris Hilton. I know most people feel that the only good thing about that one was that she dies in it. This is the good one. The late, I think it's 1953. The 1953 version starring Vincent Price. Originally a 3D movie, actually. I had the good fortune to see this in 3D when it was re-released in the theaters when I was a kid. And it wasn't that crappy red and blue 3D, it was actually the polarized, which is now they're calling Real D. But the technique that is used for Real D is actually not a new technique. It's been used for a very long time. And the first time I ever saw it was when I saw House of Wax as a kid in a 3D re-release theatrically, and it looked amazing. Absolutely amazing. Now, what makes these two films notable? Well, this one is just a really good, 50s horror movie, and you really can't go wrong with Vincent Price. This is probably one of the ones he's most remembered for, because this was just a great film. I mean, 3D or not, it's just a great film. It's scary, it's chilling, it's got some beautiful set design and everything. But basically it concerns the story, I'll just read the back here for you. In the wicked performance that crowned him the movie's master of the macabre, Vincent Price plays a renowned wax sculptor plunged into madness when an arsonist destroys his life's work. Unable to use his flame-scarred hands, he devises a new and murderous way of restocking his house of wax. This is a really good DVD edition because it actually contains the 1953 version and the 1933 version, which was actually one of the first Technicolor movies. It was done in an early Technicolor process. It's not like full blazing Technicolor like you've seen in stuff like The Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind. No, this is a very early color process, and it's pretty cool. I haven't actually watched that version yet. I just kind of looked at snippets of it, but yeah, very cool. The original version was just called Mystery of the Wax Museum, and then this one essentially is a remake. Now, I just went off about remakes. Remakes are okay sometimes. If they're done well, and if it's like a suitably different reinterpretation that is both respectful of the original and, you know, brings something new to the table, then that's fine. Like a good example would be John Carpenter's The Thing, which is considerably different than Thing from Another World. However, there is some debate as to whether that's actually a remake, because they're both actually based on a short story, and it's really just two different adaptations of the same short story. For example, I Am Legend and The Omega Man, and another Vincent Price movie called Last Man on Earth, were all based on the Richard Matheson novel, I Am Legend. Any one of those is not a remake of the other, they're simply three movies based on the same book. I think the same thing goes for House of Wax. I don't know that it was based on a book, but based on the same basic story. So I guess one is a remake of another. But anyway, the Vincent Price version is just so much fun. It's just classic gothic horror at its best. And Vincent Price was really in his prime in this, and just, you can't take your eyes off him. So even if you hated the Paris Hilton version, give the original a look-see, because it's well worth it, even if it's not in 3D. One of the few 3D movies that actually stands up quite well in 2D. Now, The Haunting. I've always been a sucker for a good haunted house movie, and there seems to be precious few of them out there. At least precious few that do as good a job at scaring the bejesus out of you that The Haunting does. Now, here's the thing that makes The Haunting work so well. The Haunting is the perfect example of less is more. Because what do you see in The Haunting? Well, if you've seen the remake, you see a hell of a lot of CG. CG ghosts, CG this, that, and the other thing, and just horrible, horrible film. Great cast, great original movie it was based on, completely missed the point of what made the original so great. And what made the original so great was the fact that they don't show you everything. In fact, they hardly show you anything. It's all done with sound and lighting and shadows and implication. And I cannot begin to stress how effective it is. Okay? Now, the thing that makes the original version of The Haunting so interesting is because everything is done in such a minimalist fashion, that there's a really interesting angle to it. Namely, you don't actually know 100% if the house is actually haunted, or if it's all in the mind of the main character. Are you seeing what's actually happening, or are you seeing what she's seeing? Do you ever find out a definitive answer? Well, you're going to have to watch the movie and find out. But it definitely keeps you guessing. And while it's keeping you guessing, it's scaring the pants off you. This is a great example of just how to do a haunted house movie properly. Great cast in this, too. Julie Harris, Claire Bloom, Richard Johnson, Russ Tamblyn, and directed by Robert Wise, one of the greatest directors of, semi-modern cinema. Just a fabulous film, and I cannot possibly recommend it highly enough. It's one of my all-time favorites. I first saw this when I was a kid, and it scared the crap out of me then. It may not be as scary today, but get yourself in the zone, man. Just let it take you on a journey, and if you love a good haunted house movie like I do, you will not be disappointed by The Haunting. So next time, we'll talk about another couple of classy horror movies that thankfully have not had horrible remakes, but that I like to group with the previous two. Well, the previous one in particular, ones I like to group with The Haunting. But we'll save that for next time. So until then, thanks for watching, and sayonara.